Germany has offered Ukraine an alternative to full membership in the European Union. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz proposed granting Ukraine associate membership in the European Union, since, according to him, Ukraine is not yet ready for full membership in the EU. Well, even in Brussels, Merz's plan caused a mixed reaction. Questions arose about its legal justification, feasibility, and political consequences. As a result, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, rejected Germany's proposal to grant Ukraine the status of an associate member of the EU, since this would deprive Kyiv of voting rights within the bloc. And Zelensky stated that, quote, "Without Ukraine, there cannot be a full-fledged European project, and Ukraine's place in the European Union should also be equal." On the one hand, in Europe, this idea of Merz is called a phased accession to the EU, but on the other hand, they assure that at this stage, Ukraine could simply get stuck for many, many years. So, let's figure out this situation. What are the pros and cons of the German Chancellor's proposal, and why is Ukraine flatly refusing what seems to be a truly phased accession to the EU? And at this stage, it seems we haven't met all the requirements yet, haven't joined the EU, but we're already getting quite a lot of benefits. But why do others call this harmful? Let's figure it out. I'm Alexei Pechi, let's discuss this together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the video, and leave any detailed comment under this video. I will be very grateful to you for that. And besides that, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, recently, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, rejected Germany's proposal to grant Ukraine the status of an associate member of the European Union, since this would deprive Kyiv of voting rights within the EU. Next is a quote from Zelensky. "Without Ukraine, there cannot be a full-fledged European project, and Ukraine's place in the European Union should also be full and equal. Opening negotiating clusters and making significant progress in talks is important. It is important to work 100% for the sake of security and for our people." The fact is that earlier, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz proposed granting Ukraine the very status of an associate member of the EU, which would provide such advantages as participation in meetings of the European Commission and the European Council, but without voting rights and without access to certain EU programs. On Thursday, the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, seemed to support this phased approach proposed by Merz, stating that candidate countries for EU membership could be granted access to programs such as the Single Market, Customs Union, Free Movement of Goods Area, Erasmus and Harrison as steps toward full membership in the European Union. Well, while Ukraine is waiting for membership, why not already receive certain privileges of European Union membership today, even if they fall short of full rights? It sounds nice, but in response to this, Zelensky sent a letter to the leaders of the European Union, in which he emphasized that Kyiv is quickly moving forward with the reforms necessary for full membership in the European Union, and also serves as a bulwark against Russian aggression for the entire bloc of 27 countries. Therefore, that's why this is a strange proposal specifically for Ukraine. Like, we're protecting you completely, and in return you offer us, well, partial membership. Here is a quote from Zelensky. "We are defending Europe fully, not partially and not with half measures. It would be unfair if Ukraine were present in the European Union but remained without the right to vote." And so the letter was addressed to the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and the President of Cyprus, whose country currently holds the rotating presidency of the European Council. And here I would like to remind you that Ukraine applied for membership in the European Union just a few days after Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Ukraine was granted official candidate status a few months later, and accession negotiations began in 2024. And here it is important to note that the plan of German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to grant Ukraine associate membership in the European Union caused a mixed reaction even in Brussels. Questions arose about its legal justification, feasibility, and political consequences. If we analyze Friedrich Merz's idea, it sounds roughly like this. Merz proposes a specially tailored status for Ukraine, which would give Ukraine the ability to participate in the work of the political bodies of the European Union, but without voting rights and without its own commissioner portfolio, as well as the opportunity to gradually join certain programs funded by the European Union. He also proposes to grant Kyiv the right to request assistance from other EU countries in the event of armed aggression. And according to Merz, this would create, quote, a significant security guarantee to deter Russia while negotiations on full membership are ongoing. In Brussels, Merz's proposal was compared to last year's article in which the German Chancellor advocated using frozen Russian assets to finance the so-called reparations loan to Ukraine worth 90 billion euros. That publication at the time stunned the leadership of the European Union, and the project ultimately failed. Merz's current proposal was seen as a rather hasty step and also poorly coordinated. But on the contrary, the European Commission, which oversees the process of EU enlargement, reacted more positively to Merz's initiative and called it evidence of the EU countries' firm intention to make enlargement a reality as soon as possible. And so, Guillaume Mercier, who is a representative of the EU Enlargement Commission, noted that, quote, EU enlargement is a geostrategic investment in our prosperity, peace and security, and Ukraine's accession to the European Union is fundamentally linked to the security of our union. Any innovative scheme must be based on the principle of merit, which is meant to determine the complex, multi-stage process of negotiations on joining the EU. And here as well, let me remind you that at the beginning of this year, the European Commission already proposed an option in which Ukraine would be formally declared a member of the European Union, but the real benefits of this status would be granted to Ukraine gradually. However, the capitals of the European Union rejected this idea, calling it dangerous and unrealistic. Merz's proposal, on the contrary, suggests gradual integration to gain access to EU funds and high-level forums, but with formal membership only at the very end of the process. And here I want to highlight an important point. Some European partners see an intermediate status as a tool to speed up integration for candidate countries, but Kyiv sees potential risks of this actually delaying the process. Kyiv's position is that we are ready to wait, but still want to receive full membership outright. All alternative proposals may look attractive at the first stage, since we get something right away, but they do not guarantee the final result. That is, at some point joining the EU may stop altogether, because Brussels may decide that in principle associate membership is enough for Ukraine. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screens. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.